Well, good morning, everybody. So, we are living in an incredible time, a world literally on the edge, and I call it this convergence, if you will, of where sustainability meets innovation, resulting in collisions of ideas, connections, people connecting all around the planet, and co-learning, resulting in this whole thing. We just heard about a great new program, Yammer, logos, pathos, and ethos. And what does that really result in? What I call make epic happen. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And thank you so much for hosting me. KHDA, thank you. To connect, to be active, to take notice, to keep learning, and to give. That is at the heart of what we all do and what all educators should do. So for those of you who don't know, I am from New York. Yes, thank you for those who are excited. And that little slice of home, that little slice, the South Bronx, that is my home. It is also home to 40% of the city's waste, a sewage treatment plant, 100% of the Bronx's waste, a sewage pelletizing plant, 4 electrical power plants, and 60,000 diesel trucks a week. Right there. Smells great, right? These pictures were taken 4 blocks from my K-12 school. Great place for a picnic, nothing like a toxic walk or a picnic, nothing like a brisk walk in a toxic neighborhood. A medical transfer waste, and this is 2 blocks from where my school is. Throw in 4 strip clubs, 5 jails, 6 liquor stores. It is no wonder that my kids are traditionally the canaries in the coal mine, and I come from the poorest congressional district in America. So I'm here to open your eyes today about a new way of thinking, and I ask everyone to think, is the glass half empty or is it half full? It's half full, yes, but we're going to stretch that answer because I believe it's 100% full. 100% full of what my kids need, clean air and clean water. So I believe in this mindset, if you will, of endless resourcefulness, of constantly being positive, of trying to figure out ways to do things that have never been done before, oftentimes with very little. Now, in my neighborhood, I am affectionately known as El Capitan de los pollitos, the captain of the crazy little chickens. I have 875 in a K-12 school, I have 750 in a K-5 school, and 275 in a second opportunity where the average freshman is 19 years old. They failed out of school 3 times and usually come to me from prison. But I am literally, I'm a resident. I'm a parent. I'm the oldest 6th grader you'll ever meet, so I'm constantly having fun. I'm somewhat of this insurgent educator, if you will, who has this fundamental belief that even though I live in a very difficult place, people should not have to leave their neighborhood to live, learn, and earn in a better one. And I constantly tell kids that every day we're going to practice this random act of genius. Now, in this age, in this era, we're living in this age of nature versus Nintendo, if you will. But the reality is kids aren't even playing Nintendo anymore. What is it, like Xbox 360? Whatever it is, it's something that I can't keep up with. But it's constantly a change. And when I was a child, we went outside to play. And now playing is something that basically you can do in bed. So it's a very different reality. And in my reality, what am I seeing? Well, I'm seeing kids get way fatter. I'm an educator of over 30 years, so the kids are getting fatter. They're getting way sicker. In my community, the emergency room is the primary source of health care, and that's not good for the 1% nor the 99%. It's not economic. It makes no sense. And to think that 75% of the kids who I see labeled learning disabled would not be simply if they had access to good prenatal nutrition, to me is absolutely appalling. The realities of my community are right there. Absolutely appalling. Welcome to the poorest congressional district in America, where literally 37% of residents are food insecure. So New York, arguably next to Dubai, the greatest city in the world. But 5 short miles and 6 long degrees of separation comes to my community. And this is it. Let's take a quick look. The largest trek of public housing in America. No supermarkets, no infrastructure, basically nothing. 40 buildings that look like this. Even if the job ferry came to get people, to give people jobs, there's no way to get in nor out. In fact, the very train that passes through this neighborhood connecting Manhattan and Westchester, two of the wealthiest counties in the country, does not even have the audacity to stop in this neighborhood. The numbers are staggering of my kids. I have close to 50% of my kids living in homeless shelters. I have the highest rate of single-family homes, 37% rent insecure. And while child poverty is at an all-time low in New York City overall, in the South Bronx, it is at an all-time low, 59%. And to think that's where I grow up. The graduation rate, remarkably in New York City, it's an all-time high, 78%. I think it could be much higher. In the South Bronx, graduation is an all-time rate too, 32%. Huge disconnect, as I say. Two sides of the tracks, tough and tougher. Welcome to my neighborhood. I always say that the cradle of inequality is the inequality of the cradle. This picture right here was taken 4 blocks from my K-12 school. This is what my kids see every day walking to school. Be it design or default, a topic for a different conversation, that's the reality that we live with. And with schoolyards and playgrounds that look like this and communities that look like this, get out, let's move, be happy, be healthy. Not really happening. It's a great place to be if you're what, a broken bottle or a stray bullet. But these are the realities of my communities. Jobs continue to leave big cities, and we're wholly dependent on energy from other sources, not looking to the sky for renewables. It is no wonder some people call my community a desert. So I'm out to change all that, and quite simply, I'm not willing to accept the things I can't change. And I've got a lot I can't accept on a daily basis, trust me. I'm going to change what I can't accept. And for me, it all starts with seeds. So I am a people farmer, I like to say, but the kids are my seeds, and I am a people farmer. About my kids, 100% of my kids are either English language learners, homeless, foster care, adjudicated youth, or special needs kids. And remarkably, in the back of my South Bronx classroom, in the midst of this concrete jungle, if you will, I always have plants growing. Now, the beauty about plants, if you will, is there's no floaters at the top of the tank, which is beautiful. There's no poop to scoop, which is even better. And there's nothing that eats their young. So for me, it's kind of like win-win-win. And remarkably, the kids really like taking care of these plants. They develop this relationship because you can't have plants fight. The kids really get along with them. And so much so that we pulled up 6 acres of blacktop. This used to be a city street. We pulled up 6 acres of blacktop to put farms in the middle of the South Bronx. But what I really wanted to do is create that experience indoors. So my 5 golden letters are these right here, and I'm here today hoping my reach will forever exceed my grasp. But the simple moral values that I teach my kids, if you want to change the world, you take responsibility. And the advanced placement course for me is to own it. So when I learned that I could put plants on walls and literally grow them vertically, I thought this was an amazing thing, and my kids did too. And I wanted to take everything I was doing outside and bring it into the classroom, bell-to-bell instruction, if you will. And literally, I gave birth to an edible classroom, and this right here is my classroom. And ladies and gentlemen, in the middle of the South Bronx, this is my harvest. And in the 21st century crazy technology, this right here, this little trowel, this is my tool for mass instruction in the middle of the South Bronx. And no matter what, electricity working or not, this thing always works. The remarkable thing with this is that my kids and I, we literally started putting this food right into cafeteria. And these are my heirloom students making heirloom sauce, getting fresh, healthy food into the cafeteria. And I started getting involved with project-based learning, connecting things to Common Core, content area, and really looking at bigger connections to push this learning out and bring the real world in. And the kids took to it in wild ways, so much so we started designing green roofs and putting them in green walls all across the country. In many of my buildings, remarkably, they're old refurbished buildings. We don't have windows. So I started saying, hey, we have plants on walls. What are we going to do to get them growing? Well, we started focusing on LED lighting, real 21st century stuff that even if kids lived in public housing, they still had to understand the nature and nuances of what it means to grow, of what it means. And for me, in the middle of the South Bronx, the greening of America starts with the greening of pockets. And then the greening of hearts and the greening of minds. So paychecks made a big difference. And this is the youngest nationally certified workforce in America on top of the Bronx County Courthouse with the Bronx Borough President right there with a green roof that they installed. Now, statistically, 4 out of 10 of those kids that are my students wind up going out of the basement of this building in handcuffs. So for me, this is a moral victory of epic proportions. But it got really good because my kids became this incredibly skilled labor force. And we started outsourcing our labor around the country into other communities. And to think that my kids who had no access to nature, nurture, or landscape that looked like this could get paid living wage to install it, to me was game-changing. It transformed the whole nature of why kids wanted to come to school. And it took off. In fact, I call this from South Bronx to Southampton, because the following summer my kids moved from the South Bronx to Southampton to start installing green roofs and literally selling the products that they were growing and producing for full retail in the middle of the Hamptons. And for me, it was absolutely game-changing. To think that all this comes from a simple seed is remarkable. So you may ask yourself, what do these green roofs and green walls do besides change mindsets and landscapes? But this guy in the middle right here figured it out, my friend Jim, professional contractor. You see, because in the South Bronx we have lots of abandoned buildings. I don't know if you've heard about that, but we have this amazing resource. It's called empty space. And we started contracting with landlords and property holders to take forlorn and abandoned spaces and turn them into highly productive places. And I started teaching my kids and contracting them for living wage jobs, real skills, 21st century skills that couldn't be outsourced. This young man is the first in 3 generations to have a bank account, which is remarkable. This young man from Africa came to this country because his parents were hungry. He speaks 4 languages and one of my best paid installers. And to think that we can take exteriors and interiors and turn them into this, it's no wonder that CNN came down to my class, and I only wish I had a carrot in my mouth instead of the microphone to speak. I like to say it's unbelievable. As corny as that may sound, but my kids are getting paid living wage to do that, and usually for someone very wealthy. So we're co-pollinating communities with added value capacities for all. But when kids from the poorest congressional district in America can design, build, and install a 15 by 30 foot green wall in the heart of Rockefeller Center, to me, that represents a whole new economy, a whole new opportunity, and jobs into the future. I like to say it's scholastic, and there I am on Broadway pushing down a wall full of plans right down the middle of Broadway. For me, when the Bronx Borough President and State Senator come to my class, it's proof that the Bronx can change attitudes now. And most importantly, when I get kids who come out of prison, who have made some bad choices, to get out and start installing gardens across New York City for handicapped kids so that everyone can experience this. It's the kind of add value that everybody wins. For me, that's a true, really inspirational moment. But most importantly, with these kids right here, and realize 50% of these kids are homeless. When they started taking the money that they were earning to donate it to earthquake victims and tsunami victims, I realized that there was something green for everybody. And we gave birth to the Green Bronx Machine. We started stranding out every aspect of our life, of what our community looked like, to figure out how we could grow something greater. And in this age of STEM, I like to talk about STEAM. And what does the A stand for? Well, for me, the A stands for arts, because every child needs more art in their life, whether it's debate, drama, dance, whatever it is that makes kids happy and allows them to express themselves. Please get out there and do it. What does the other A stand for? Well, the A stands for aspiration, because every child needs to dream. And for me, it's important to encourage those dreams, to nurture those dreams, and to work on those dreams with those kids daily. And the last A is advocacy. Because for me, every life matters, and my kids are often voiceless, so teaching them that their voice matters and they can get out and vote and be participants in participatory democracy is absolutely mind-numbing. So what does it look like in practice? Well, we have a lot of garbage in my neighborhood. Perhaps you've seen some of it in the earlier slides. So my kids and I, we prototype garbage. We started really looking at the fabric of my neighborhood, and that's it. That's a map of our neighborhood, and believe it or not, that's it. My K-12 school is right here in between those 2 stop signs. Welcome to the ugliest block, one of what I think is one of the formerly most ugliest blocks in America. It's horrible. No one here would want to live there. Every innuendo you've heard about the South Bronx, from gang violence to drugs, happens right here. Cars go back and forth, no businesses. My K-12 school is between those 2 yellow street crossing signs, and I apologize that the picture pixelated, but at the bottom is that big hunk of garbage, and when it rains, the water goes down the hill. So the kids and I, we started dreaming and drawing, and we started using some technology and imagining what could our neighborhood look like. We started getting a little aspirational and inspirational. We started writing grants and breaking ground. And ladies and gentlemen, 2 years later, this is the new South Bronx, and this is STEAM and STEM, and it's, yes, thank you. Thank you. And most importantly, Where there was no business, there is now business after business after business, and butterflies and people coming out. This is, and I'm very much, understand, I am very much about ABCDs. But this is the new ABCDs. Asset-based community development. And teaching kids to count is important, but teaching them what counts to me is so much more critical for their long-term and my overall community success. And whether you live in this side of the neighborhood or not, or you're an absentee landlord, everybody benefits when we start taking buildings and turning them from this into buildings that look like this. And that's exactly what we did. And that's exactly what we do. And welcome to the South Bronx. And remarkably, Disney came to visit me, which was unbelievable, because when Disney called me to come to the South Bronx, I thought they were kidding.
Hi, I'm Steve Ritz, and I'm a science teacher from the South Bronx. And where I teach, kids have no access to local
and that used to be a formerly abandoned street.
My kids didn't even know where vegetables came from. So I started teaching my students how to grow their own food, and they loved it. Before long, we started the Green Bronx Machine, and lo and behold, in the South Bronx, we started a food revolution. Gardeners like these are spreading the word about fresh vegetables and feeding our own community at the same time. Here we are, 30,000 pounds of vegetables later. We've got veggies popping up in every corner of the city. We found out we could grow food almost anywhere. Under bridges, on walls, in classrooms. And look, right here, 4 stories up, we're growing without soil. It's called hydroponics, and not only is it really cool, it's great for the environment. Our kids have learned how to build edible walls. What could be more cool than a wall full of food? Our motto is "Si se puede." That means yes, we can. And you can too. Si se puede!
Si se puede. Makes me want to go out and plant something right now.
Those guys are so fired up.
Yeah. So next time you bite into a carrot, remember how much fun it can be to garden in new ways.
It's bound to put a smile on your face when you pass the plate.
So pass the plate is cool, but my kids are passing tests, and when I realized how much time little guys were watching on TV, I shifted my whole focus from overage, undercredited high school kids to little guys. And these right here are my future farmers of America. Kids who get really inspired by wonder and inquiry and worms and little things that allow them to communicate and collaborate with each other. And when I start them young at this age, it's not unpacking bad habits. It's building good habit on top of good habit on top of good habit. A neighborhood that was once known as Fort Apache, the Bronx, for all its violence. The only teepees you're seeing now in my Fort Apache are teepees that we're building celebrating Native American History Month. And without a food stamp or a fingerprint in the United States, we are feeding our own community. These are happy kids, happy children. The glory and bounty that is Bronx County. Somewhere over the rainbow is our new schoolyard, and I'm delighted to invite all of you to come. So for me, it's no more little sports teams. I want kids aggregating around things that are good for them. I have little mushrooms and little broccolis instead of little nicks and little nets and little giants. I have kids really socializing around the things that are going to make them healthy in life. And no matter what, whether you live in a homeless shelter or the concrete jungle, I want every single kid in my community to know what healthy fresh food is and where to get it, how to grow it. As a literacy teacher, when Jose pays attention to detail like this, and Omar and Henry can tell me that carrots come from under the ground instead of in a Ziploc bag from some woman saying next and moving them across the line, these are the kind of victories that I as an educator love. You see, for me, input equals output. You wouldn't put water in your Porsche, and these are my little Testarossas. These are my little Mercedes. So giving them the critical nutrition where they need it most, and ironically are getting it 3 times a day in school, because that's basically one of the functions of my school, is absolutely critical. So this is the work that we're doing. I have happy teachers, happy kids. We're sending kids home because we're growing indoors with groceries all year long. And in my community, that's a huge difference. Then I started bringing in grandparents and foster care parents, because a lot of my kids are being raised elsewhere. And when I brought grandparents to school for the notion of food, we started doing adult literacy program, voter registration, everything that transformed the entire lens of my community. I've got big kids teaching little kids how to shop, how to use food stamps. I'm doing it intergenerationally, interculturally. And it's game-changing for my kids, moving them from the notion of being consumers to producers. So we're growing much more than food in the South Bronx. We are growing justice. On top of the 4 train up there, we're growing pumpkin patches, and at Thanksgiving, we get to eat them in school, which is totally cool. The kids have never eaten pumpkins before, so it's a lot of fun. For the rich and affluent, my kids are installing koi ponds across New York City and upstate. But these are my children of the corn, generating science and STEM awareness in the least likely of places, in high traffic areas. We're looking at ways of resourcing garbage and reclaimables and recyclables to help solve hunger problems all around the world. And for me, that's truly inspiring. So I don't expect every student to be a farmer. No, but I expect them to read about it, write about it, blog about it, do the math, have this entrepreneurial spirit to get out there and do something great. And I will tell you this, when I tell kids to be quiet, the plants are having sex. Oh my God, you can hear a pin drop. You know, I'm thrilled to see kids pollinating plants instead of each other in the middle of the South Bronx. For me, this is my version of plant parenthood, I like to say. But remarkably, in a data-driven society with my older kids, my attendance has gone from 40% to 93%, which is game-changing. It means kids are coming to school instead of out there committing crime or doing things they shouldn't do. 100% of my kids have graduated or gone on to post-secondary training. And in a community, thank you, with 30% plus unemployment, we've partnered towards 2,200 local jobs. And that's the kind of things that gets kids and communities and parents excited. So, video, audio, please.
From a strip club, an abandoned lot over there, 2 liquor stores right up the block. Welcome to the neighborhood.
So I keep innovating with
I am dean of
technology.
students at a school here in the South Bronx. We're flooded with cheap options. The 99-cent menu here, the 99-cent menu there. Right here on this street, in this very restaurant where my wife and I got the motivation to help change kids' lives. Good morning, everybody.
Have a great day.
And it starts with classrooms. It starts with education. We're trying to teach kids where their food comes from and how they can grow themselves into a whole new paradigm of health, success, and opportunity. It smells good, right? Smells like plants. Smells healthy.
That is a vertical wall where you could plant vegetables.
Classrooms are changing. Kids are changing. Waistlines are changing. Block by block, we're changing the way people think about the places they live and what they want to be in life. And for these kids in this community, that's transformation. What are we gonna do with these plants? We're gonna... The eyes of the future are looking back at us, and they're demanding that we get this right. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. You're not gonna stop me.
No, I feel like I'm just getting started. So these are the kids, these are my classrooms, and where does the food often go in a community that has no access to it? Right downstairs into the cafeteria. The rest gets delivered locally, where most of my kids get their last meal of the day, sadly, in a soup kitchen or a shelter kitchen. So I like to say we're stepping it up across the South Bronx, and no sneakers or precious school uniforms were ruined. You can farm and stay clean, and the basketball court can coexist with the farm in my community. But Blackfield, Brownfield, toxic waste field, we're proving in the South Bronx that we can grow food all year long, profitably and efficaciously. My flour sales put bake sales to shame in ways that make dollars and so much more sense for everybody, and whatever isn't sold goes right in the community for restoration. It looks gorgeous. But most importantly, when you can bring gang kids together for something like this, for a greater good, that's the kind of success that I love. And these are happy kids, happy families. The glory and bounty, and this is all food grown on cement in the middle of the South Bronx with kids who love it. And for me, when you teach kids about nature, you teach them to nurture. And when kids learn about nurture, we as a society collectively embrace our better nature. So I like to say we're creating this whole new recipe for success. And again, I keep iterating and innovating and looking at all kinds of new technologies
Want cheaper food.
that really the kids get involved with.
Healthy food. Kids are getting fatter. They're getting sicker. I have 200-pound sixth graders, and to me, that's appalling. I can't accept that. It's just not right. Listen, when kids lose weight and they go home and they're bringing food home to their families, and grandparents are getting involved, and parents are getting involved, and people are talking about what's going in their bodies, plant by plant, classroom by classroom, we're changing outcomes, and we're changing destinies. I have kids who are teachers now. I have kids who are aspiring to things and jobs and places that they've never imagined. That, to me, is exciting. Put a seed in the ground. Put a seed in the ground. It's that simple.
It really is, for me, that simple. And remarkably, for kids who didn't know what food is in an economy that's totally driven by cheap food, it's crazy. You see, because in the United States, oops, guys, I'm not done. Okay, I'll keep talking. Hopefully you can bring the presentation back up. But in an economy that's really, in a community that's not driven, that cheap food drives everything, do you need help? I'll keep talking. So, you know, for me, it's no longer us versus ourselves, it's no longer us versus them. The sad realities of the healthcare industry is us versus ourselves. And we are literally eating and feeding ourselves to death. You got it, Michaela? Just hit escape in the back and just keep going. And that's the reality of my community. While they're waiting, are there any questions I can answer in the interim? Hopefully they'll get this back up. And there it is. So literally in the United States, thank you, we are eating ourselves to death. And we don't need more cheap food in the United States. We need more healthy food. And my kids and I are showing that if you grow it and get out there and sell it, we sell out weekly. And now we're experimenting with all kinds of new technology. And I like to say that 30,000 pounds of vegetables later, my favorite crop is organically grown citizens, graduates, members of the middle class, kids who are working and going to college and aren't going to jail. We're taking empty lots and converting them from this into freestanding economic entities that are generating food and property value. Win, win, and win. We have gone from a movement to a market, and that to me is the most critical thing, to become a self-sustaining entity. So no matter what city you're from, no matter where in the world you're from, I'm dedicated to making health equality a reality, and I hope you are too. And in America, I like to say we are Americans, and I'm dedicated to making my kids Americans once again, because I don't see problems. I see challenges, but I see any challenge or any barrier as a place to plant food and grow awareness. We're taking empty buildings and converting them with $0 of infrastructure repair into food factories that are growing food all year round, creating jobs and life and food and nourishment for a community that so desperately needs it. And that's the beauty of the work that we do. And for me, so many of my kids who are apart from success, that when you give them an opportunity to embrace their neighborhood, they do just that. They truly do. So I have a lot of energy. Hopefully you'll plug in. Yes, I do have a lot of energy. Hopefully you'll plug into it. Because my model is simple. It's called cultivate, propagate, and replicate. I like looking at the big, beautiful little baby seed that we all did when we were in elementary school. 5 days in the life of a seed. On the 5th day, the miracle really happens. I like to look at 5 days in the life of my kids with the older kids, the green Bronx machine. We show up, we set up, we plant, we grow. That's 5 days worth of growth. That's 25 days later. That's a lot of lettuce in our mouths and a lot of cabbage in our pockets, so to speak, as the expression goes. We're Bronx proud. I like to say we are farming, and you know it, in the middle of the South Bronx. But it's been game-changing.
We are in the South Bronx, the poorest congressional district in America. So to be able to be part of the revitalization of this community is everything I've ever aspired to do. Who knew we could get kids to come to school for the privilege of farming?
100% of the students who come to us are either dropouts already or they're on the way to dropping out.
Our kids show up because it's fun. The way he does it, he's stern. If you want to have fun, if you want to be part of this program, you also have to produce in other subjects.
The real-life applications of this program transcend all level of academics. There's reading, writing, math, science.
And the light at the end of the tunnel is a job.
We're growing food. They're working in kitchens. They're working in supermarkets. They're buying, grading, and rating produce. They're aspiring to be chefs in restaurants, creating food and dishes they never imagined.
I started going to school more, and things started getting more interesting because of this program, and now I am building green walls and green roofs all over the globe.
Other states and even other countries are looking to Bronx kids to train them in the technology that Steve has trained our kids.
I'm not willing to accept the things I can't change. I'm going to change the things I can't accept.
We're starting through Steve Ritz to tell the new Bronx story. We're no longer the borough that just made it. We're the borough that's leading the way.
And I am the luckiest man on the planet.
Progressive people are everywhere. Stephen Ritz is one of them. Learn more at apronprojects.com.
So that's what we do. I'm here sharing my passion. Hopefully you'll share yours. That's our website. My kids have a Facebook. They're going to put up the picture of me falling off, the video of me falling off the camel. Yes, if you haven't heard, it's true. I fell off the camel. That video will hopefully go viral. That'll be up. So please like the kids on Facebook. You could follow me on Twitter. The kids do the Facebook. I do the Twitter page. And I'm going to look into Yammer as well. I do have a TED Talk that I gave a couple of years ago, and you'll notice I'm much larger, which is another part of the story. But But since then, I've been able to turnkey this kind of thinking remarkably all across America, even through South America. And one of the funniest things, one of the most meaningful things is not long ago, I made the front page of El Colombiano, the Colombian newspaper, which is rather remarkable given the horrible relationship between the South Bronx and Colombia in the 70s and 80s. So to think that I could go there and do something great is inspiring. So for me, I teach children to stay out of places that look like this. I am not anti-business, I am very pro-business, but I'm anti-extraction business, taking money from one community and moving it out of the way with no bottom line for anybody else. I ask teachers to do something simple, it's called Model a Healthy Plate. Get out there and educate kids, teach kids, get kids out, teach them about entrepreneurial skills. My kids love running businesses, they love making money, they love getting out there. And most importantly, love them. You know, it's very hard to put a quantitative number on empathy, but it seems that in most of the research that I've looked at in the United States, the data indicates that children with access to one kind, caring adult will succeed in life. So the answer is love. There is a whole lot of love, and that's the secret to what I do. In the United States, there is a war on education of epic proportions, and to think that schools have become this, when my kids get out there and take over abandoned buildings and turn them into this is what public education for me is all about. Now, Mother Nature has no mercy, but we as humans do. And, you know, again, my kudos to KHDA and their 5 happy words, because that's what this is about. In the United States, I like to say we should move from a nation of red states and blue states to a united nation of green states, living eloquently and ecologically in line with Mother Nature. As we get ready to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King, 50 years later, you strand out the biggest problems of the world. Beyond racism, it is education and environment. And the beauty of STEM and STEAM is that it solves all that. And for me, it's just easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men. And if we get out there collectively and collaboratively and focus on that and the work that we do, we're going to change lives. Because I believe the teachers change lives. I believe principals change lives. Businesses change lives. Communities change lives. And together, we can heal the world. We can speak of this abundance and really share it globally.
Who wants to play? You're it! My name is ستيفن Ritz, and I am CEO, Chief Eternal Optimist of Bronx County. We're gonna actually grow our own lunch. We're going to grow our own food today. We're gonna go from seed to plate.
A towel garden is like this plant, but you don't need soil. And then the water comes up, and then it comes down and rain on the roots.
Adults think you can't farm in the South Bronx. Tell it to these kids. They're farming. For so many, food is the problem. Yet for all of us, food is a solution. We have some of the highest rates of juvenile diabetes and juvenile obesity in the nation. And we can change that. We absolutely have the power to change schools in this generation. I think I still see the seed.
That happens. Exactly.
You mean I can pass it around and they can see the seed in the plant? My job is to teach kids how we can grow food. And I'm asking everyone to roll up their sleeves and get a little dirty and grow something greater.
He lets us plant stuff like salad, cucumbers, tomatoes.
My 4th and 5th graders came into a classroom with no windows to build a tower garden and literally turned it into a farm. And we talked about how healthy food builds healthy minds and healthy bodies, and where are we doing it? Right here in school. So did everybody plant a seed? Yeah! The excitement and the joy that these little kids feel putting a seed in the ground and watching it blossom. OMG, as they say, this is their moment.
I think he cares about us a lot, and he wants us to learn and have fun at the same time.
I'm not a farmer, but I'm planting seeds.
He always says, like, seeds are like people because they need love and they grow and grow and grow to be successful people.
To use 21st century technology to generate food and to create this beautiful thing to sit by that you can actually eat is game-changing. It's empowering. They're growing. The plants are growing, and they're responsible for it. And when they know they can grow their own, they really start changing the way they see their relationship to the world and their place in it. We're going to eat it? Is it good? I love it. Thank you.
So in some ways, I think I have the coolest job in the world, and I will tell you about those fourth graders. Those fourth graders got so inspired, they farmed their way to the White House. They literally got to the White House. We got in. We cooked in the White House kitchen. A year later, we have the White House chef coming to me in the middle of the housing projects in the South Bronx to cook food with the kids. We call this From Hope to the Pope. And yes, I got to meet His Holiness Pope Francis. It was amazing. In fact, last week I was back at the White House installing our vertical tower gardens for STEM Technology Day.
I am Stephen Ritz,
and that's what we're
founder of
doing.
Green Bronx Machine. Well, what Green Bronx Machine does is literally grow food in school aligned to Common Core. So we're not only growing healthy kids, we're growing healthy academic performance. We don't expect kids to be farmers, but we want them to read about it, write about it, blog about it, do the science, the math, and along the way, discover what healthy food is. Healthy kids are at the heart of healthy schools, and healthy schools are at the heart of healthy communities. And in a community that is food challenged and has a lot of health issues, we believe we can grow ourselves into new opportunity and academic success. We are 21st century solutionaries right in the middle of the South Bronx, and we are partnering with private schools, public schools, to show people that the Bronx can change attitudes now. And we're out to change America now, because as the health of the South Bronx goes, so goes the health of New York City, New York State, and the nation. 30,000 pounds of vegetables later, grown in the South Bronx. My favorite crop is organically grown citizens, graduates, members of the middle class, kids who are going to college. That's what this is about. We are growing a new economy.
Indeed we are. So I just want to share with you what my latest and greatest, biggest idea is, my big STEM STEAM moment, because I'm so proud of it and it's starting to take part. And I just want to really acknowledge my friend Fila for coming to visit us in the South Bronx, because right here in a 100-plus-year-old school building that has some of the most egregious data in all of the country, down to 99% of kids getting free and reduced lunch, I believe the problem is the solution, and I am in the process of building the National Health, Wellness, and Learning Center at PS 55, because I believe we can change the way we eat, we can change the way we learn, and we can change outcomes in this and all future generations. I've taken an abandoned library that was old and decrepit and non-functional 100 years later and turned it into this, which is going to be generating 100 bags of groceries a week. The kids got so excited, we fundraised, we raised all the money ourselves, we did it, and we're going from impossible to I'm possible. And the kids, they believe in me, and I believe in them, and we're going home with groceries, and we're generating 100 bags of groceries per week. 52 weeks a year. It's a model classroom that is fully self-sustaining. It's net positive on food, net positive on energy. It's growing food. And I like to say it's aligned to Common Core in all content areas. It's the green line to success. And for the first time in the history of the South Bronx, I am going to be sending children from the South Bronx to the very esteemed Bronx High School of Science, because zip code and skin color shouldn't determine outcomes in life. Opportunities should. I gave another TED Talk about that went viral. And for me, it's just how you orient yourself, you see, because some people see this and some people see that. But for me, it's just reorientating to see that opportunity is now here and this is our moment. And what do we as educators need to do? It's build function, add value, and create new systems, things that are going to work, and build value for all. That's for me what this is all about. So in my class, I like to say, let us turn up the beat. In case you didn't get it, I'll do it one more time. Let us turn up the beat, and you can all repeat after me. Let us turn up the beat, and that's what we're here to do, because I believe ideas like this can change the world and can change the very context of the way kids go to school. So is the glass half empty, people, or is it half full? It's 100% full. Thank you. This little guy, Kermit the Frog. It's not easy being green. Remember that song? Are we all old enough to remember that song? This little guy has put a lens on sustainability that's mind-numbing. He's back. He has a primetime TV show on ABC. It's mind-numbing. 45 years ago, if anyone thought that this would be one of the most recognized icons of our time, it's mind-numbing. So I say in this movement, no matter what, stay young and stay agile, So even though we're all little tadpoles, I encourage you to get out there in your pedagogy and take one big great leap. Be a frog, embrace your inner frog, and do something great and jump out there. For me, it was embracing green roofs. That's me growing corn in the middle of Harlem. Embrace your inner greenhouse, build a green wall, do something outrageous. That's the U.S. State Department with 40 countries coming to visit my kids in the South Bronx. The first time for something positive ever, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Get out there and teach kids, plant seeds. You heard Dr. Abdullah talk about it. 1 year later, kids who learn to nurture, learn to cooperate. And for me, as much as I love working with the big dysfunctional ones, I love spending time with the little ones, nurturing them and growing them into something greater. And every child around the world should know where their food comes from, what it is, how to grow it. And remarkably, my kids are doing just that and getting access to some of the best fresh air and clean water they've ever imagined, and to living wage and academic success. So we've started this movement. I was recently on the Today Show showing how it's entirely possible to eat your way into good health. And now, as I continue to iterate and use these Tower Garden technologies, I want to show you my last classroom. This is 22 days in the South Bronx aligned to Common Core. This is not Photoshop, people. This is my classroom, 24 days. Living lettuce on a roof in the middle of the South Bronx, and that's happy kids. We're not working harder, we're working smarter, and we're selling our produce at full retail price if we're not eating it. So I like to say, my kids and I, we are creating a whole new recipe success en route to our own personal Sesame Street. Excuse me, and there we are. That's what this movement is about. What is the larger movement about? Well, it's about designing, building, and transforming that, social sustainability. And living wage is at the heart of what I call social innovation, so that together we can all prosper, win, win, and win. It's remarkable to me to think I'm not a farmer, have no science background, that my kids and I are designing projects that are net positive on food and energy, that are attracting attention around the world from the likes of Bill Clinton. I can't believe it. I even got to meet President Clinton, which was remarkable. To think that I was a finalist in the top 10 teacher prize simply because I'm coming to work every day and working hard with kids is mind-numbing. And to think that I made it to the cover of STEM magazine along with Dean Kamen and an astronaut is beyond my wildest expectations. And again, I feel like I'm just getting started. And if that's not enough, my mom's most proud moment, I even got to meet Oprah, and that was amazing. And she showed up in a green Bronx Machine t-shirt, so that was kind of thrilling. The moral of the story is simple for people. It's not about impossible, because I believe we can all go from impossible to I'm possible. My own odyssey has been remarkable. I've lost over 120 pounds simply eating with eating the food that I grow with kids in school. So if I can do it, you can do it, they can do it, and we can be stewards of ourselves and our communities in ways we've never imagined. For me, these little guys are the most important thing. They are what drive me daily. I love the little ones. And while many of us are focused on this year's graduating class or the past or next year's graduating class, I want to focus on the graduating class of 2028. Look at them. They're adorable. I mean, my favorite is the wrestler. Any kid who says he wants to be a wrestler and puts on a hat like that is really special. But these are our children, our grandchildren, our nieces, our nephew. And for me in the South Bronx, Superman isn't coming. There is no man on the white horse. I, me, you, us, we are the ones that these kids are waiting for. And they need us to grow the biggest pumpkin ever. So get out there and help them grow. You see, because the future, technology is not going to save the world. But technology and people can. And that's what this is about, people power. Dr. Abdullah talked about the steam engine. I want to go back to this because when I say people, you say power. That's what this is about. So people, people, exactly. Take responsibility, people. Join me, have fun. Can you tell I enjoy the work that I do? I come from a place where we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And, we are teachers. We don't accept life as it is or how it could be. We demand life as it should be. I'm just one guy in a homemade bow tie with my kids doing it. But now that you know more, I expect you to care more. And now that you care more, get out there and do more. For me, asking for permission is begging for denial. So I refuse to be held back. I believe in going from this to this, from this to this, from this to this, and from this to this in my lifetime. And if I can, You can. This week I'll be back at school. I know the kids are probably waiting for me. I have to send some emails later, and I'm delighted to connect. But tomorrow, on Friday, I'll be back at school because my kids and I really believe in our dark little corner of the world, we can change the world. And that's amazing. So no matter where we are on Earth, please remember that deep in Earth is this amazing thing called art. Get out there and make plenty of it. And most importantly, how we walk with the wounded speaks louder than how we sit with the great. And hopefully that will drive you in all the work that you do. It's what drives me daily. My name is Steve Ritz. I grow vegetables, but my vegetables grow students. They grow communities, they grow resilience, and I'm so proud to be a part of it and so honored to be here. In dark abandoned classrooms in the middle of South Bronx, I am growing vegetables, but no matter what you do, please take time to smell the flowers, especially if they're up here on stage with you, if you grew them with your students, and make epic happen. Thanks kindly. I'm Steve Ritz from Green Bronx Machine, as we say in the South Bronx. Si se puede. Thank you, thank you. Thank you kindly. Thank you so much.
And now we have time for a couple of questions for Stephen.
Thank you. Stephen, that was, first of all, absolutely inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have two questions. Can I ask two questions? The first is, on this remarkable journey, what would you say is the greatest resistance you faced? And are there any stories, maybe bureaucratic, or people who thought this was not a good idea? And my second question is there any link or guidance you could give us on how you integrated these concepts into Common Core?
Certainly. So there's always going to be resistance. Now, remarkably, when I started this work 10 years ago, people really thought I was crazy because people weren't farming with kids. It didn't make sense. But we've seen the health epidemic in the United States, and I'm sure many of you are from countries where obesity and diabetes is rampant. So input equals output. I'm blessed to have a very supportive administration now, politically, and realize I'm out to put pharmacies out of business. I want to put an end to summer school. There is an economy of failure in the United States that's very different. We have this kind of economy that is designed for people to fail as opposed to succeed. So there are a lot of people who don't like me, but that's okay. You know, my job is to get out there and do the best that I can for kids who I love dearly on a day-to-day basis. So I'm blessed and honored and humbled to be doing the work, and the results speak for themselves. So I don't see obstacles. I see opportunities. There aren't problems, there are challenges. You know, problems, I guess, are opportunities dressed in work clothes, and Lord knows no matter where you're working, there's always work to be done. So let's get out there and keep working and be positive and, you know, put your best foot forward. I always give credit to everybody else because this is never about me, it's always been about we. So whenever something good happens, I always give credit to someone who had nothing to do with it, so they take the credit for it, then they somehow get involved. Now, in terms of aligning it to Common Core, that's the beauty of this work. Because you can see I've went through a couple of iterations of my work where I was kind of inventing the technology, which is cool, it's a lot of fun, but it's not scalable and it's not replicable. So I use low cost, readily available technology, and then look at what are the skills that I want my kids to learn. So in the last video, we saw all the little kids planting seeds. They're having a time of their life, but that's gonna be their math lesson, because it all has to do with ratio and proportion, percentage of seeds to germinate. I do seeds, instead of making flashcards for multiplication, I do seed cubes. So it's all about metrics, it's all about measurement. The kids write directions, they keep data. I was sharing yesterday that I got an email that the second graders, their research has confirmed that 2.5 centimeters equals an inch because they keep measuring the depth of the water day in and day out. And they keep documenting it and letting me know. So a lot of it has to do with technical language, Common Core, which is really rooted in technical language, instructions, directions, and advocating. So for me, the art of farming, and I am not a farmer, I grow vegetables, but my vegetables grow school performance, and along the way you get to eat them, which probably trumps Ritalin and group therapy. But really, everything, it is the point of entry for all we do, putting the farm in class where the farm coexists with teachers. It doesn't mean it's out of class, it's bell-to-bell academic activity. The reservoirs are on the bottom, the diameters are changing, so the kids have algorithms for as the diameter gets wider, how the depth of the water changes. Anything that will engage kids to do, and the remarkable thing is the plants really grow. And you get to eat them or you get to sell them. So there's a whole piece to it that is really, it has changed the lens of school culture. Again, if you've just been to my school, it's one of the most difficult neighborhoods in America to come work at. By changing the culture of my school, and I'm a firm believer that culture eats strategy for breakfast, by changing the culture, I now have an abundance of employees in a community where I couldn't even get people to show up. So it's a fun, happy, engaging place to work. We celebrate often. We write, we send invitations. The kids, please, they run the Facebook page, they run the website. You know, I'm the conductor of an orchestra I can't play an instrument of. You know, I get to show up and spend nice quality time with you people, and they're home working. It's not that easy, but, you know, it's about building systems and creating structure. And that's what it's really about. And just giving kids the opportunity to experience success. Anybody else? It's tough to... You just stand up, it's hard to see. Oh, go ahead, please.
There are a lot of turning points in people's life. What was your real motivation?
I've had a lot of motivation. To give you some context to my work, when I first started teaching in 1980s, the whole South Bronx was burnt. It was burnt. It looked like a war zone. I had kids coming to school, so the statistics for my kids just going to jail was insane. The other motivation, the bright side, is my daughter is here somewhere, so I have a wonderful daughter who I'm so proud of. So that's part of it. 20 years ago, I was spending a bulk of my time as a crisis interventions counselor, taking handguns and cocaine off kids in middle school. So to understand how insane that was, it just seemed like a big waste of time. I've also, sadly, had some tragedy in my life. My wife and I have lost some children ourselves. And when that happens to you, that's a game changer. You can either kind of be stuck, or you can say, I'm going to do something great. And, you know, I'm just determined to do something great. Every day is an opportunity to do something great, to put your feet on the ground, to take a deep breath and praise the God of your choice and get out there and do something amazing. And that's what I choose to do. So to see kids now who are graduating, I have kids who are doctors and lawyers. You know, I went the other day to the hospital for a checkup, and one of my kids was there. I was a phlematologist. I almost had a heart attack because I remember when he used to sit in the back of class and pick his nose and eat it, you know, and here he was taking my blood. I didn't want to give it to him. So there are lots of turning points, and there are lots of celebratory points, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I believe we as a society can grow something greater by planting seeds and extending our arms and our hearts and our hands to one another and grow something greater. You know, my big thing is to end poverty and hunger in this lifetime, and I think that's, you know, absolutely doable. There is an abundance on this planet. It's just how we allocate it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Oh, one from the I always want to acknowledge the younger, one last one, please. I'm sorry.
From which age did you just start planting these plants?
Me?
Yeah.
I was an old man. I knew nothing about planting. I never, my story is I wanted to be an NBA player until I realized I was 300 pounds and the NBA really wasn't going to call back. But I started after 50 working with kids growing plants. So it's never too late to have fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Con.